Hey guys, tonight we're stepping through velvet curtains into a world stitched with ambition, where every silken thread carries a rumor, and every jeweled pin is a declaration of allegiance. The air smells faintly of rosewater and court rot, a mix of aging wigs, dried petals, and the perfume of power. You're not here to play, you're here to maneuver. That gown brushing your ankles, it's brocade, imported, and heavy not just with gold thread, but with political consequence. Your shoes pinch. Handmade. The cobbler whose son you helped secure a clerical post. He owes you. Everyone here owes someone. You're no innocent debutante. You're seated near the throne. Not too close. Not too far. Just close enough for the queen to notice your silent approval, or your barely veiled contempt. You don't smile too brightly. That's dangerous. You don't whisper too often. That's suspicious. You have mastered the art of perfect stillness, broken only when necessary, like a chess piece moving only when you've already seen the next four moves. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me, where are you watching from? And what time is it where you are? Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lift your goblet, glancing sideways as the Duke's third wife leans forward. Her bodice is tight enough to threaten a rebellion. Her eyes scan the room like a falcon. She's new, eager, hungry, and potentially reckless. You note that for later, the music starts, lutes and recorders trying their best not to clash with the drumming of alliances being formed with every shared glance. On the surface, the court shimmers with elegance. Beneath, it snarls. Across the hall, a girl curtsies too low before a minor lord. You watch as the queen's eyebrow arches ever so slightly. That's it. That's the moment. That girl will be peeling turnips in a convent by week's end, and she doesn't even know it yet. You sip your wine. The gowns around you glitter, but you know which threads are real silver, and which are lies. Historians still argue whether embroidery signaled wealth or allegiance in some courts. You know better. The embroidery is the allegiance. As the feast rolls on, the dishes come in succession. Roast peacock with its feathers reattached for spectacle, sugared violets you wouldn't feed to a pig, and a wine so spiced it might be covering something up. You pretend to eat. Trust is a rare spice here, and far more expensive. To your right, Lord Henley leans toward you, pretending to adjust his sleeve. The Dowager Duchess, he mutters, has changed her will again. Guess who's back in it? You hum non-committally. Information is currency, and you are the mint. A younger courtier trips over his doublet trying to speak to the queen. She doesn't look at him. That, too, is a statement. You make a mental note. He'll ally with someone powerful soon, desperate to salvage dignity, possibly you. There's a shifting energy now. You feel it ripple through the hall like a change in weather. Someone new has arrived, someone important, or dangerous, or both. The king's cousin, perhaps, or a visiting envoy with a claim. You don't turn around. That would show interest. You wait until their reflection catches in the polished goblet. Cloak of midnight blue, trimmed in ermine. Interesting. The dance begins, and with it, the subtle choreography of negotiation. You watch as couples move in time with the music and out of sync with their marriages. Partners change hands with practiced ease. One misplaced hand, one step too close, and reputations crumble. You catch a glance from Lady Branton, not a friend, not an enemy, a mirror, Perhaps. She nods slightly. That's a question. You reply with a blink and half a smile. That's an answer. An alliance? Temporary. Always temporary. Someone at the far end laughs a little too loudly. You already know it's a trap. Laughter at court is either bait or cover, and often both. You let it wash over you and pretend not to notice. Historians love to debate whether women had real political power in courts like these. They write papers about soft influence and the power behind the throne. But you know the truth. There is no behind. The throne is surrounded, flanked, boxed in, and often ruled by women like you, and sometimes entirely by women like you. One of the courtiers drops a spoon. It clatters. Several heads turn. You don't. But in your peripheral vision, you register the quick exchange of glances. That wasn't a mistake. That was a signal. And not for you. You slide your chair back just a hair. Enough to signal retreat. Maybe. Or defense. Or interest. That's the beauty of court life. Everything means something, and often more than one thing. You reach for a plum and bite it slowly, sweet, overripe, like this moment. Tomorrow, there will be accusations of theft, of insult, of inappropriate favors. Someone will lose everything. Someone else will gain. Briefly. But tonight you glide across marble floors in a velvet gown, heavier than most men's armor. You dance with smiles, duel with sighs, and win with the flick of a fan. And as the torches flicker and the scent of burnt frankincense curls around your shoulders, you remember this game is never truly over, only paused. The torchlight flickers as you step behind one of the great columns, your slippers silent on the cold flagstone. You pretend to be inspecting the tapestries, an epic scene of a battle long forgotten, but really, you're listening. The acoustics here are known only to a few. A word dropped near the apse can carry like a feather all the way to the alcove beneath the minstrel's gallery. You've mapped the sound in your head. You know where whispers go to die and where they go to be overheard. Behind the tapestry, you catch it. Two voices. A man's, smooth, practiced. A woman's, sharp, wary. They're discussing borderlands, but not in the way one discusses geography. This is metaphor. Borders as people. People as pieces. Something is about to be moved. Someone, rather, and you suspect it may be you. You shift your weight subtly. The heavy velvet drapery brushes your shoulder like an unwanted hand. You keep listening. The woman mentions dowry figures. The man says something about timing the fall. Fall of what? Of whom? Your fingers itch for a fan, or a glove, something to toy with and disguise your sudden tension, but you stand perfectly still. You've practiced this. You are a monument. One of them coughs. The voices vanish. You hear the shuffle of steps retreating, not toward the court, toward the back hall, where kitchen boys linger and secrets leak like stew from a cracked pot. You emerge slowly, adjusting your sleeve as if you'd been there all along. A few nobles glance your way and return to their goblets. No one noticed, except the royal jester, who grins at you knowingly. But jesters always know too much, and live long only when they know when to laugh and when to forget. You return to the long hall, slipping into a seat beside Lady Fairfax, whose lips are too red, and whose hands are always slightly too warm. You miss the almond tarts, she says with mock sweetness, but gain something better, I suspect. You reply with a single blink, neither affirmation nor denial. She smiles wider. You've confirmed nothing, and yet she'll report you whispered with someone behind the tapestry. Excellent. Let her spread it. Better a false rumor seeded by you than a true one planted by someone else. Historians still debate whether noble women were active agents or merely pawns in the political games of early monarchies. They cite letters and dowry records and household inventories. What they miss are the pauses, the silences pregnant with meaning, the whispers like this one, traded behind silks and glances. A servant passes with wine. You take a goblet, inhale, and pretend to sip. Everyone always drinks too much when the chamberlain is nervous, and he's sweating tonight, which means something's off. Across the hall, a familiar figure stands too close to the banister. Baron Atherton, recently widowed, too recently. His late wife choked on a grape, or so the story goes. You remember her well, sharp-tongued, fond of falcons, and impossible to intimidate. You also remember her allergy to grapes, a quiet one, known only to close friends, or a husband. The Baron notices your gaze. He raises his goblet. You raise yours, just a hair higher. A challenge? A salute? He won't know. That's the point. Just then, a page rushes in, whispers something to the steward, and slips out again like a shadow. The steward goes pale. His eyes scan the room like a man trying to remember who he owes money to, or who has the means to burn him alive with a letter and a seal. You lean toward Lady Fairfax again. Something's moving, you murmur. She's about to ask what, but you give her no time. You rise. It's a calculated risk. Drawing attention to yourself now. But the hall is already restless. The music stops. Someone knocks over a chalice. The scent of cloves and burnt citrus hangs heavy, but it's not enough to mask the tension. You slip past the dais, past the queen, who meets your eyes briefly, not cold, not warm, just aware. She nods, barely, and now your move has weight. You've been seen, not punished, not praised, but seen. Down the side corridor, you pass the mosaic of the founding saint, the one whose eyes seem to follow you, and you press your hand flat against the third tile to the right. It lifts, slightly. You drop a folded scrap of parchment into the hollow behind it, not because you need to, but because it will be found. Eventually, a decoy, or perhaps a promise. It depends who finds it first. Your breath slows. You count to 5, then turn, slow and measured, and walk back into the hall as if you never left it. And there, just as you return, the queen stands. The night is late, she says, and the stars do not always wait for us to sleep. It's a dismissal, a polite one, layered with potential meanings. But you know it's also a signal. Something will happen tonight, outside these walls, maybe far away, maybe close. You curtsy, deep, not too deep, and as you rise, you make eye contact with the jester again. He's no longer smiling. The court begins to empty. The air is heavy with unspoken things. You brush past silk sleeves, perfumed hair, brocade and suspicion. You feel someone's fingers brush your wrist, deliberately. You don't turn. That, too, is strategy. Outside, the chill bites, but you welcome it. The stars above blink as if they know what's coming, or maybe they've seen it all before. Your slippers crunch softly on the frost-laced gravel as you leave the great hall. Behind you, torches sputter and voices thin to murmurs, like the dying embers of a fire too grand to keep alive. Ahead of you, darkness, velvety, purposeful, and not without its own audience. You pull your cloak tighter. Someone is watching, not with ill intent, yet, but in court. Intent changes faster than weather in a mountain pass. Tonight's ally is tomorrow's indictment. You know this because you've helped write both versions of the story, carefully, in ink that vanishes when heated. You pass the rose arch near the Queen's garden, noting absently that 2 blooms are still clinging to life in the cold. Like courtiers without heirs, beautiful, fragrant, and marked for pruning. Inside your chambers, all is still, too still. The fire's been banked. The maid hasn't returned with your mulled wine. That's unlike her. You cross the room, your footsteps soft on thick wool rugs, stitched with dragons and heraldry no longer fashionable. A once favored family, executed for treason, allegedly. There's a folded note on your pillow. Not unusual, but this parchment is creased 4 times, not 3. Whoever left it knew your habits and meant to disrupt them. You unfold it. The script is delicate, but hurried. 1 line only. She saw you behind the tapestry. Fix it. You stare at the words, letting the implications bloom. She, Lady Branton. You're sure of it. Of course she saw. And of course she waited until now to act. Political timing is its own weapon. You burn the note in the fireplace. No dramatic flourish. No shaky hands. Just calm fingers and a poker. The flames curl, crackle, devour. 1 fewer loose end. Now to the matter of fixing it. You call for your maid. When she arrives, she's flustered. You ask her, gently, if anyone else entered the room tonight. She lies. Badly. You thank her anyway. That, too, is strategy. She'll believe you believed her, and that may buy you more than truth ever could. Historians still argue whether noble women acted independently in affairs of state or simply reacted to male decisions. You suppress a laugh. If only they knew how many male decisions were actually planted, nurtured, and harvested by hands with silk gloves and iron nails. You sit at your writing desk and dip your quill in wine, only for the first strokes, the rest in ink. The letter you compose is neither friendly nor cruel. It offers Lady Branton something she cannot refuse, the appearance of victory. You will concede a trivial estate, one you never cared for, and allow her to believe she has cornered you. She'll brag. She'll crow. She'll share her triumph with someone she trusts, and that someone will tell someone else, and soon the entire court will know. And that's the point. You've handed her a sword, made of sugar, looks deadly, melts in the rain. By morning, the message will be delivered, sealed with your ring. By afternoon, Branton will smile, and within 3 days, the Queen, who loathes braggarts, will remove her from court under the guise of ill health, possibly to a lovely estate with very thick walls. You've seen it before. As you blow out the candle and climb into bed, the weight of your plan settles over you like your brocade blankets, intricate, heavy, necessary. You lie still, but sleep is far. Instead, your mind wanders back to the first time you stood in this palace. You were younger, sharper in some ways, duller in others. Your shoes were too tight, your tongue too loose. You learned, painfully, but you learned. You remember the Queen's eyes, assessing you like a jeweler holding a flawed gem. "We'll polish her," she said to someone behind you, "or chip her until she shines." You've never forgotten that. She didn't say which. A log shifts in the fire. Shadows ripple. You think of the courtiers who came before you, now forgotten, reduced to portraits with names mispronounced by visiting ambassadors. You will not be one of them. You shift your hand beneath the pillow, fingers brushing the dagger you keep tucked just there. Not out of fear, out of tradition. Every woman who's lasted more than a decade at court has a ritual. Yours is steel, unseen, outside. A fox yelps in the garden. Or maybe it's a warning. Either way, you take it as a sign. Morning will bring new games, new dangers. The queen will host a breakfast, not for food, but for positioning. There will be pastries shaped like crowns and fruit carved like shields. You will sit 3 places from her, not 4, closer than Branton ever was. And when the queen mentions the burden of loyalty, you will nod just enough to be seen, just enough to be remembered. But for now, your eyes drift closed. And behind them, you see the court again, velvet, flickering light, and all those sharp smiles. Tomorrow, you'll smile sharper. You wake before the bells, always before the bells. Dawn hasn't so much broken as whispered its arrival. The sky outside your stained glass windows blushing with a pink, too delicate for war. But court doesn't need war to destroy. It only needs breakfast. The breakfast chamber smells of rosewater and soft bread, but there's something underneath. Orange peel, cinnamon, and tension. You enter precisely on time, not early, not late. Early is desperate, late is presumptuous. On time means control. You count the chairs as you approach. 1, 2. Your seat is 3rd from the queen. Perfect. The same as yesterday. The same as the week before. Stability in this palace is an illusion, but you maintain yours flawlessly. Lady Branton arrives next. She's wearing peacock blue, which is brave or foolish. That shade draws every eye, and some of them are armed. She catches yours and smiles, the way a cat does when it thinks it's already swallowed the bird. Let her smile. You pour honey over your oatcake. The queen enters. Conversation halts. She doesn't speak for a full 10 seconds, and in that silence, entire alliances crumble and reform. When she finally does speak, it's not a greeting, it's a test. I trust, she says, that our dreams were peaceful last night. You smile into your tea. Peaceful dreams in this court? That would be a scandal. Lady Branton dares to answer first. Mine were filled with victory, your majesty. A fine omen, I think. The queen doesn't even look at her. Just cuts a fig in half with a silver knife. The room exhales. Historians still debate whether queens used breakfasts as informal councils. Some suggest they were mere social rituals. But anyone who's watched a duchess crumble over toast knows better. Power is served with butter and swallowed in small bites. You pass the plum jam to the ambassador's wife without asking. She nods. Respect. Mutual recognition. She once smuggled letters in her corset across 3 borders. You admire that. You suspect she admires you too. Then comes the moment. The queen sets down her knife. Lady Branton, she says, voice smooth as polished wood. You've received word from your sister, I believe. Branton blinks. Yes, your majesty. Just yesterday. Concerning her health, no doubt? A pause. Yes, indeed. The queen sips her tea. Then, of course, you'll wish to attend her. Silence. Then, of course. Everyone at the table knows what this means. Exile dressed in embroidery, removal disguised as compassion. And you don't move a muscle, you don't smile, you don't even blink. Lady Branton lowers her eyes. She murmurs a thank you, but the damage is done. By tonight, she'll be halfway to the estate you suggested, the one with the thick walls and the conveniently distant chapel. You take a small bite of cheese. It tastes of quiet triumph. The rest of the meal is perfumed with civility. A few comments on the weather, a half-hearted laugh about the new falconer, but the temperature has shifted, and everyone knows why. You excuse yourself just before the final dish, not hurried, not smug, just concluded, in your chambers. You allow yourself one moment of breath, one deep, private breath. You've survived another round. Not just survived, you've shaped the field. And it's only mid-morning. You open your writing box. It contains notes from 3 ambassadors, a bracelet lost at last week's hunt, and a dried clove you keep for reasons only you understand. You choose the middle drawer and remove a folded square of parchment. This letter is not written yet, but it will be. You begin. To the Dowager Queen of Aberdeen. She doesn't know it yet, but her next marriage proposal will come from your suggestion. Her grandson is eligible. Your cousin is ambitious. You see opportunity in every bloodline. That's your real talent, isn't it? Seeing the invisible strings. Some women are born beautiful, some brilliant. You were born strategic. There's a knock. You tuck the letter away and rise. The visitor is expected, and not. The Queen's steward enters, bowing with spine-snapping stiffness. Her Majesty requests your presence in the solar, not the council chamber, not the garden. The solar. That means it's personal. You follow him without question. Down the long corridor with the mirrors you never trust. Past the portrait of the king's third hunting dog. Past the doors with the griffin carvings. Into the solar, where the sunlight hits the floor just so, and no shadows survive. The Queen is alone. You curtsy. Deep. This time you do stay bowed until she speaks. Rise, she says, and you do. She studies you, the way a falcon studies a mouse, or perhaps the way a general studies a map. Lady Branton was a nuisance, she says. You incline your head. She had strong opinions. She thought herself clever. She was mistaken. The Queen nods. And you? You meet her gaze. I try not to underestimate the court, or your Majesty. She smiles. Just once, just slightly, and it's terrifying. I have need of someone, she says, to deliver a message to Aberdeen. The letter, of course. Would your Majesty prefer the message spoken or sealed? Spoken first, she says. Sealed only if they fail to listen. You nod. When do I leave? Tonight. There it is. The test beneath a favor. Travel in winter. Diplomacy in dangerous courts. But you accept it, as you accept all things, gracefully, and with plans already forming. Your Majesty, you say, it will be my honor. And just like that, the Queen looks at you, not as a subject, but as something closer to a reflection, not equal, but not entirely separate, a woman in velvet, a woman with power, and no one, not even history, will forget it. The fire crackles softly in the hearth as your maid pulls the last ribbon taut on your traveling cloak. It's lined in sable, a gift from a merchant whose tariffs you accidentally mentioned at dinner last spring. He never got his reduction, but he did get peace of mind. For a while. You, however, got fur. The moon is already high as you descend the servants' stair to the courtyard. The palace above glows with candlelight and ambition. Below, the carriage waits, black, understated, flanked by 2 guards who don't wear the Queen's crest. Curious. but not unexpected. A courier hands you a leather pouch, unmarked, but unmistakably important. Inside is a second message, the real one, the one no ambassador will ever see unless the first fails. You tuck it beneath your tunic, between two layers of silk and secrecy. You step into the carriage, nodding at the driver. He doesn't speak. You don't ask his name. That's the safest way. As the wheels creak into motion, you lean back and exhale through your nose. The city gates await. So does Aberdeen. The road south is not long, but it is fraught, not with robbers or wolves, though there are those too, but with informants. Every innkeeper has ears. Every stable boy could be someone's nephew. You've traveled before. You know how to smile without speaking, and how to speak without saying anything at all. Somewhere near midnight, the carriage halts. A tree has fallen. Convenient. Unnatural. You glance at the driver, who offers no explanation. That's all the confirmation you need. You step out onto the frost-hardened earth, letting your hand hover casually near the slit in your cloak, where the dagger rests. Just a precaution. From the woods steps a figure. Female. Tall. She doesn't wear a veil. That's bold. You know her, though it takes a second. Lady Violet, cousin to the former Queen of Aberdeen. She's supposed to be in seclusion, mourning her fourth husband. Apparently not. Traveling light, she says, glancing at the single trunk strapped behind the carriage. Only staying long enough to be remembered, you reply. She smiles. Aren't we all? Violet steps closer, boots crunching snow. Word is, you had a hand in Branton's departure. You raise an eyebrow. Didn't we all? She chuckles. You're good. I try. I want something, she says. Too fast. Of course she does. Everyone does. Violet is ambitious, but not clever. She never learned the art of restraint. Aberdeen is restless, she continues. The Dowager Queen is aging. Her grandson is impressionable. I want to position myself as an advisor. Why me? Because you can suggest it. Casually, over tea, in a way that sounds like concern. And what do I get? Violet leans in. Access to her private accounts, her archives, her correspondence with Arland. Now that's interesting. Historians still argue whether Arland was truly plotting against Aberdeen in the winter of the Queen's illness. Some say the letters are forgeries. Others swear by the ink. If the correspondence still exists, it could change borders, or war, or both. You pretend to think. Then nod once. I'll see what I can do. Violet slips you a ring, a token. Literally. It's set with amber, but the band twists in a way that marks it as a sign. You accept it, pocket it, and step back into the carriage. As you ride away, the driver says nothing, but he saw. He always sees. And that's fine. The Queen's spies aren't there to stop you. They're there to see if you're worth trusting more. By the time you reach Aberdeen, dawn has painted the frost pink. The palace here is smaller, warmer, full of tapestries that look like they were stitched with actual gossip. The Dowager Queen receives you in a chamber that smells like beeswax and resignation. She's older than you remember. Thinner, too. But her eyes are sharp. You offer the usual courtesies, the practiced condolences, the verbal dance that precedes any real conversation. Then, over rose-hip tea, you begin the suggestion. The court grows tense, you say. His Grace is young, eager. He needs someone prepared. She needs someone seasoned. The Dowager tilts her head. You? You smile. Not I. I belong to another queen. But I met Lady Violet along the road. She spoke of you with such warmth, such concern. She misses court, you add, casually. And you, I suspect. Historians often overlook the subtlety of courtly persuasion. They love grand speeches and decrees. They forget that most history was written in tones like this: mild, maternal, ever so faintly manipulative. The dowager nods. I'll consider it. That's all you need. You spend the evening in the guest wing. You dine on pheasant and chestnuts, discuss poetry with a man who thinks he's flirting, and excuse yourself before dessert. You're not here for pleasure. You're here for control. In your room, you write 2 letters, one to the Queen, confirming that the message was delivered, and one to Lady Violet, confirming that her bait has been swallowed. You do not mention the second message. Not yet. You wait, because sometimes power isn't in what you say, but in what you hold back. The night air in Aberdeen is soft and thick with wood smoke. You stand at the window, arms folded, staring past the frost-laced panes into the darkness. Somewhere beyond the city walls, politics rages louder than any battle trumpet. But here, in this quiet guest chamber of carved oak and worn velvet, silence reigns, and in that silence, secrets multiply. You turn back to the room. Your cloak is draped neatly over the chair, your gloves drying near the fire. Your satchel sits untouched on the writing desk, but you've already checked it twice. The second letter, the real letter, remains hidden beneath the false bottom. A message sealed in wax the color of dried blood, to be delivered only if diplomacy fails. The Queen didn't say what the message contains. She didn't need to. You've carried these before. Threats veiled in pleasantries, ultimatums bound in courtly phrases. Once, you carried one so lethal it ended an engagement and a principality. You settle into the armchair and open your fan, not for heat. For the message, the fan is silk, painted with birds and ivy. But the real value is in the embroidery, a cipher woven in gold thread, visible only when tilted toward firelight. It's old-fashioned, elegant. The Queen's signature touch. You rotate the fan slowly, decoding. Delay the alliance. Do not return until Branton is replaced. Trust Violet. Use Arland letters if necessary. You exhale. So, it's not just about Aberdeen. It's about home. About cleaning house. You toss another log into the fire and pull out parchment. A note to Violet. Careful wording. No affection. Just implications. Let her believe she's the Queen's new favorite. Let her brag. Let her rise. Then fall. Historians still argue whether fan language was truly used for political communication. Some dismiss it as romantic fiction. But you've ended negotiations with nothing more than a flick of the wrist. You once convinced a baron to withdraw troops by dropping your fan at his feet and saying nothing at all. Outside, the snow begins to fall, soft, slow, whispering secrets into the night. You don't sleep. You never do when you're holding leverage this valuable. Instead, you sit in silence, rereading the false correspondence Violet provided earlier that day. The ink is fresh. The handwriting, a little too perfect. Curious. You compare it with a note you saw last year, signed by the Dowager Queen. Slight differences in flourish. Violet may have forged this herself, or had it done. Risky, sloppy, but also useful. You know what this means. She's not just maneuvering to become an advisor. She's laying the groundwork for something bigger, possibly regency, possibly more. If the grandson falters, and if Violet can control the narrative, well, that's a future the Queen back home might want to prevent. You add another note, this one to the steward in your home court. Lady Violet overreaches. possible forgery of royal hand, permission to pursue evidence, no names, no signatures, just the seal of your family, pressed into black wax. It will arrive quietly, and a response will come by courier in 3 days, 5 if the weather turns. In the meantime, you must play your role. The next morning, you attend a small council with the Dowager Queen. She's seated beside her grandson, Prince Dorian, who is far too handsome and far too dim. His eyes sparkle, but not with strategy. You smile at him once, and he turns pink. That's useful. Lady Violet has arrived, a guard announces, and you watch the temperature in the room shift by several degrees. Violet enters in violet satin trimmed with silver fox. A statement. You give her the smallest of nods, just enough. She's already watching your face for signs of betrayal. You give her none. The council discusses grain shortages, border tensions, and the unexpected death of a minor count, one who just happened to oppose Aberdeen's trade deal with your queen. Coincidence? Perhaps, but probably not. You offer one comment, measured, flattering, concerned about the well-being of the region. The Dowager nods. Dorian smiles at you again. Violet scowls. Good. Later, at luncheon, Violet corners you in the winter gallery. You're playing both sides, she says, voice low, eyes glittering. You lift your brow. Are you? She steps closer. If I fall, so do you. Then perhaps we should both stand still. She doesn't laugh. That's a pity. You're not the only one who knows how to forge a seal, she whispers. You let the silence bloom between you like frost on glass. Then, and you're not the only one who knows where the bodies are buried. The difference, dear Violet, is that I help put them there. She backs away, lips tight. And absolutely know she's about to do something reckless. Perfect. That evening, as you return to your guest room, a page delivers a letter. No crest, no seal. Inside, a single sentence. Meet me in the orchard. Midnight. You smile. Predictable. You won't go, but you'll send someone who will. Dressed in your cloak, gloved hands, hood low. Let Violet make her move. Let her think she's clever. Let her hang herself. Politely, of course. Midnight arrives quietly, with a hush so complete it makes the frost seem louder than footsteps. You watch from your window, the heavy velvet curtains parted just enough to reveal the orchard path below. Moonlight turns everything silver, branches, stone benches, ambitions. And then you see her, Violet. She's wrapped in shadow and wrapped in confidence, which is always dangerous in equal measure. Her cloak sways as she walks, her steps fast but not frantic. She thinks she's ahead. She thinks you'll be waiting. She thinks this is the climax. It's not. At the same time, your decoy, your maid, dressed in your traveling cloak and perfume, emerges from the side gate. She's nervous, but capable. You trained her for this, not in betrayal, in survival. Because being close to you means understanding that one day, someone will try to put you in the ground, and it may not be metaphorical. Violet stops beneath the old walnut tree. You can tell from her posture she's holding something. A note? A bribe? A confession? Or worse, a trap? She speaks. You can't hear the words, but you don't need to. The stance, the sharp gestures, the way she steps forward with one hand outstretched. It's all theater, and she's performing for the wrong audience. Your maid responds with a tilt of the head, exactly the way you do when amused. It's perfect. Violet moves closer. Too close. And then she lunges. You inhale. sharply. Even knowing it was a possibility doesn't prepare you for the speed of it. Violet grabs the cloak, reaches for the throat, and your maid stumbles back, dropping a decoy satchel exactly as planned. Violet tears it open. Parchment spills. Blank. All of it. She freezes. Even from this distance, you see it, the realization crawling over her skin like ice water. She's been played. And now, of course, comes the best part. Two palace guards appear from the darkness, swords drawn, but not yet raised. They don't shout. They don't need to. Violet turns, furious, and meets the queen's personal steward, standing behind her, arms crossed, unimpressed. The steward picks up one of the blank parchments, glances at it, and then at Violet. "This is unfortunate," he says. Violet looks up at the window. At your window, and she knows. You step back, slowly, calmly, curtains drawn. Historians still argue whether Violet ever intended a coup or simply overplayed her hand. Some claim it was ambition. Others blame grief, or jealousy, or that infamous Aberdeen wine. But you know better. It wasn't any of those things. It was arrogance. And it's gone now. By morning, she's escorted back to her estate. No chains, no formal charges, just silence. The kind of silence that lasts a lifetime. You, meanwhile, are invited to tea with the Dowager Queen. She greets you with the kind of smile that has razors beneath it. "You seem to have survived our winter, with only minor frostbite," you say. The tea is spiced with cardamom, the pastries shaped like roses. Symbolic, no doubt. Every bite says, "You belong here now." The Dowager leans in. "You'll remain for a few weeks. I hope Dorian listens to you. I try to be reasonable." She nods. "He could use that." Dorian arrives midway through the second cup. He bows, awkwardly, then sits beside you. He's eager, bright-eyed, and utterly unprepared for the world that waits. But he looks at you like you have all the answers. And that's enough. For now. After tea, you wander the upper corridors of the Aberdeen Palace. You trace your fingers over the old family crests carved into the stone. One of them has been scratched out, deliberately. You don't know the story yet, but you will. You always do. A guard falls into step beside you, quietly, respectfully. "Message from the capital," he murmurs, handing over a sealed scroll. Black wax. "The Queen." You break the seal in your chamber. The letter is brief, as always. Branton will not return. You will remain in Aberdeen. Influence is to be maintained. Observe the Dowager. Encourage the Prince. Use your judgment. As always, burn this. You smile. This is not exile. It's expansion. You are no longer a courtier. You are an asset. And you intend to be invaluable. You toss the letter into the fire, watching the flame curl around the script like a snake. The scroll blackens, curls, and disappears. No smoke, no ashes you'll allow to be analyzed. Outside, the wind rises, shaking the windows slightly. It sounds almost like a voice. You walk to the mirror, adjust your collar, and meet your reflection with a steady gaze. This court is yours now. And history will be written in invisible ink. The snows begin to melt a week later, and with them, the courtiers begin to emerge like blooms from a thawed garden, cautious, colorful, and entirely too interested in you. They come with pastries and proposals, strolls through galleries that turn into inquiries, and gifts wrapped in velvet and half-truths. One even sends you a lapdog. You return it with a ribbon tied around its neck. I prefer creatures who bite less obviously. The message is received. Your mornings are now spent beside Prince Dorian, watching as he learns to sign his name on edicts with unnecessary flourishes. He asks your opinion on matters he doesn't understand, and you offer answers that seem simple, but plant the right questions. You think too highly of me, you tell him one day, as he frowns over a trade treaty. No, he says, just highly enough. He's sweet, dangerous in his innocence. One day, that will either protect him or doom him. For now, he listens, and that is enough. The Dowager Queen, for her part, keeps you close, but never too close. She offers smiles lined with skepticism, gifts paired with questions. You play your role well, the helpful guest, the diplomat between powers, the woman without ambition, just influence. Historians still argue whether women in your position sought true power or simply wielded the power others gave them. They've written volumes about subtle influence, soft negotiation. None of them seem to realize how deliberate it all is. Your correspondence with the capital remains regular, hidden in the third hem of your dresses, the inner lining of your glove case, the spine of a prayer book no one ever opens. The Queen writes sparingly. She always has. A few words are all you need. Watch the boy. Watch the old woman. Find the letter from Arland. It's always about the Arland letter, the one that supposedly spells out a plot, or an alliance, or a betrayal so old it's practically family tradition. No one knows if it's real. But you've started looking quietly. You begin in the library, not the official one, which is mostly dusty histories and gardening manuals. No, the real archive sits in the West Tower, beneath a portrait of a long-dead duke who was rumored to have married his sister. The family denies it. The nose in the painting does not. The steward gives you access without protest. Either the dowager has authorized it, or he assumes you're acting on her behalf. You don't correct him. It's cold in the archive. The air smells of leather and secrets. Scrolls line the walls, parchment bound in silk threads, notes scrawled in margins by hands long buried. You start with the obvious. The Arland Aberdeen negotiations, trade, marriage, land disputes. You find a letter hinting at an affair between Arland's ambassador and an Aberdeen chambermaid. Useless, except now you know someone at court likes to write everything down. By the third day, you find something more promising. A bundle of correspondence tied with a faded crimson ribbon. The label reads, "Unverified, handle delicately, excellent." Inside, the letters are in cipher, a simple one, barely worth the name. You crack it in under an hour. One letter in particular catches your eye. It references shipment of heirlooms across the border, timed with the moon's final quarter. Innocent, unless you know that heirlooms was a common euphemism for troops, and final quarter, a signal for rebellion. This could be it, or part of it. You transcribe it carefully, burn the original, and reseal the others. Let someone else find them later. Let them think they're the first. Let the misdirection live on. You return to your chambers, where a fresh bouquet of winter jasmine waits on your writing desk. No note. Which is the note? Only 2 people know jasmine is your weakness. One is the queen. The other is watching you. You draw the curtains, sit at your desk, and open your fan. No cipher this time. Just habit. Your hands need something to do while your mind sharpens. A knock. Not the maid, not the steward, the prince. May I? He asks. You wave him in. He stands awkwardly for a moment, then places a box on the desk. I had it made. For you. Inside is a carved wooden seal, your initials, entwined with the Aberdeen rose and your home crest. It's beautiful and terrifying. You shouldn't have, you say, gently. I wanted to, he says. You've done more for this kingdom in 1 month than most do in a lifetime. You press the lid shut slowly. That's dangerous praise. Then let it be dangerous. You don't answer. You can't. Not yet. He leaves before you're forced to say more. Later. You send a letter to the Queen. You write in careful script. The boy is not a fool. He's dangerous in the right ways. I've found something. Not the letter, but a scent of it. I'll keep digging. You seal the letter with your old crest. Not the new one. The new one is a gift. The old one is a warning. That night, you dream of fans snapping shut, of jasmine crushed underfoot, and of a letter that refuses to be read. You wake before dawn. The snow is melting, and someone is coming. You can feel it. You're seated in the East Solar, a room of faded silks and forgotten portraits, when the message arrives, not a letter, not a scroll, but something far more deliberate. A child. She can't be more than 7, flax-haired, freckled, barefoot despite the chill. She carries a doll in one hand, a folded scrap of paper in the other. She walks directly to you, eyes level and clear. She said you'd understand. The girl says, no title, no name, just she. That's enough. You take the paper. The girl skips away, humming something that sounds like a lullaby but isn't. You've heard it before, in the courtyard, the day before Branton fell. The note is barely more than a breath on paper. The air's smile hides too many teeth. Protect the old blood. The letter is not alone. You read it once, then again. You fold it 4 times and tuck it into your sleeve. The air. Dorian. Too many teeth. You rise. Back in your chambers, you pull out the transcripts from the ciphered letters you found earlier. One in particular mentioned a mirror crown, a phrase you dismissed as poetic nonsense. Now you reread it under a different lens. A mirror crown. A puppet prince. You consider Dorian's sudden generosity, the carved seal he gave you, the way he's begun asking questions about border fortifications and troop supply routes. Not from curiosity, from purpose. He's clever. Clever enough to let others believe he isn't. You sit at your desk and write a note to the Queen. The boy plays deeper than expected. He may not be theirs, but he isn't fully ours either. Permission to test his loyalties? You seal it and dispatch it via the kitchen route. Faster. Less watched. Then, you wait. Waiting is its own art. You spend the afternoon walking through the South Gardens with the Dowager. She talks about snow peas and aging horses. You nod. You watch. She knows something, or suspects. Dorian favors you, she says, not as compliment, but as observation. He is a good boy, you reply, neutral as steam. He was, she says. Now he dreams in codes and talks in questions. You pause. He grows into his crown, or away from it. There it is, the hint. She doesn't trust him. You walk a bit further, past a fountain frozen in time, its water caught mid-gesture. You think of the message from the girl, protect the old blood, and you wonder if that means the Dowager, or something older. That night, you make a decision. You visit the royal chapel after curfew, where only dust and candle smoke linger. You kneel. not to pray, but to listen. The walls here carry whispers. The priest is gone. You're alone. You pull the ring from your finger, the one Violet gave you weeks ago, and slide it across the floor behind the altar. It clicks against stone, then disappears. Moments later, a hidden panel shifts. A shadow steps through, not a priest, not a noble, a spy master. Not the spy master, just one of them. Aberdeen has many layers. You know how to reach this one. He tilts his head, says nothing. You offer him a name. Dorian. The spy master frowns. Too soon. Too quiet. You correct. He considers, then passes you a scroll. Inside are sketches, maps, a family tree, but not the one Aberdeen shares at court. A private version, older, dirtier. You scan the parchment. The dowager's lineage stops cleanly. Dorian's begins. Not quite in the same place. A cousin's child. Adopted. Not officially, but strategically. Historians still debate whether Prince Dorian was truly royal born or quietly substituted during the plague years. One chronicle mentions a fire, another, a stolen cradle, all rumor. But here, in candlelight, you now hold smoke and spark. You hand back the scroll. I need proof, you whisper. The spy master nods once. Give me 2 nights. You leave the chapel through the servant's door, the echo of your footsteps swallowed by ancient stone. The next morning, you find Dorian waiting in your solar. No guards, no pretense, just him, seated in your chair, fingers steepled like he's been practicing power. I trust you, he says. That's dangerous. I hope so, you say, settling opposite him. I think we could be allies, he says. Do you? You have the ear of 2 courts. I could give you a third. You tilt your head. That sounds premature or prophetic. He smiles. Too many teeth. You study him. You wonder what he knows and what he thinks you know. That space between them is your kingdom now. Shall we begin, then? You ask. At the beginning, he says. Tell me how you would reshape Aberdeen. You meet his eyes. I wouldn't. You lie. I would polish it until it blinds everyone else. And just like that, the game begins anew. The spy master's proof will arrive in 2 days. Until then, you smile. You play, you hold the mirror crown in your hands, and wait to decide which way to turn it. 2 days pass in calculated elegance. You attend suppers, nod through council meetings, and walk the frost-hardened paths with the dowager as if your thoughts are only of winter blooms. But beneath every word, every glance, every hand resting a little too long on the back of a chair, your mind counts hours. 47 since the chapel. The spy master is late. That means either trouble or care. You keep your posture perfect, even when Prince Dorian catches your eye during a game of chess with a visiting envoy. He loses deliberately, too quickly, as if he wants the envoy to think he's weaker than he is. You admire that. You also hate it, because you've played that game. That night, the message comes in a wine bottle. Your maid, without prompting, brings a glass of red to your dressing table. She lights a candle, bows, and leaves. You sip once, then twist the bottom of the glass. The base is false. Inside the hollow, a tightly rolled parchment, sealed with plain wax. You open it with the firelight trembling. It's not long, but it's everything. Dorian's birth was concealed. Mother, Lady Corinna of Isfault, died of fever father, unconfirmed, records altered under royal order, Dowager Queen new, letter from Arlen confirms plot to install him as heir, real heir, stillborn, substitution agreed upon, Arlen holds original papers, confirmed. You sit back, the flames flicker against your face, but the heat doesn't touch you. So it's true. Dorian is no rightful heir. He is a carefully planted thorn. The Dowager allowed it. Arland nurtured it. And now the Queen back home wants you to prune it or reshape it. Historians still debate whether Aberdeen's succession crisis was accidental or orchestrated. They cite lost census records, gaps in palace births, even suspicious weather the night of Dorian's christening. But now you hold something rarer than a theory. You hold truth. And the question is, what do you want to do with it? You could expose him, send the papers home, let the Queen unleash whatever fate she's stored in her velvet-cloaked arsenals. Dorian would be disinherited. Aberdeen might crumble or come crawling. Or you could use him because Dorian believes he's meant to rule. And maybe he's right. Maybe he's become more than the lie that created him. That makes him dangerous. That also makes him valuable. You pour yourself another glass of wine, swirl it once, and make your decision. You summon him, not immediately. That would be too eager. You wait until just before midnight, the hour when every word is taken more seriously, when secrets feel sacred. He arrives quickly, always eager. Your prince. You sent for me? I did. He looks at you, expectant, hopeful, a boy waiting to be named king. You hold up the scroll, just once, just enough. I know, you say, dumb. He doesn't ask what. That's how you know he knows you know everything. He sits down slowly. How long? 2 days. And what will you do? That depends on you. Silence. Then, it's true, he says, voice low. All of it. You nod. I know that, too. I didn't know until last year. She told me after my 16th birthday. She said I could never be king. Not truly. Not unless I earned it. And do you believe you have? He looks at you, steady. No, but I believe I can. That's the most honest thing you've heard in months. You consider your next words carefully. Aberdeen is not my home, but I live here now. I protect its interests, even when I serve another. And if I asked you to serve me, you haven't earned that yet, but you let the silence stretch between you, like a thread tightening. Then you hand him the scroll. He takes it like a sword. You'll need to burn this, you say, but not before memorizing every name, every date, every promise. And after, we begin writing a better version. He nods. And if I fail, you smile, then I'll write your obituary instead. He laughs, short, surprised, afraid, but not offended. You stand. He follows. As he leaves, he turns to you one last time. You could destroy me. I could. You agree. Why don't you? Because kings can be replaced, you say. But alliances like this, they're rarer than royal blood. And then he's gone. You close the door and exhale slowly. The game has changed. You're no longer navigating courtly politics. You're crafting a new kingdom, one where truth is optional, but strategy is law. The following morning, you wear lilac, not black, not power, not red, not blood. Lilac is memory, regret, and quiet declaration. Let the court wonder. Let them misinterpret. That's half your weaponry. At breakfast, the Dowager Queen notices first. She does not speak of it. She simply slices her pear too neatly, her eyes too still. Prince Dorian enters 5 minutes late, just enough time for speculation. He bows deeper than usual, even to you. No one misses it. Everyone pretends they do. He sits and sips his tea like a man who's memorized a conspiracy overnight. He has. You made sure of it. You begin testing his memory immediately. Did you consider the ambassador's proposal? You ask. Eyes on your spoon? I did, he says. Aberdeen won't benefit from binding trade so early. We lack the infrastructure. Excellent. And the border skirmish? Containment? No retaliation? Not yet? Send grain instead. Very good. The Dowager watches him as if he's a new tapestry she's unsure she commissioned. She stabs her pear too sharply. A misstep. He notices. We all grow into our roles, he says gently. Historians still argue whether that phrase, we all grow into our roles, was directed at the Dowager or you. In truth, it was both. The beauty of courtly phrases is that everyone hears the version meant to undo them. After breakfast, Dorian follows you into the portrait gallery, now strangely devoid of guards. He speaks first. She knows. She suspects. She won't stop. Then don't give her reason to. He hesitates at a painting of his supposed grandfather. He died before I was born. Convenient, you say? I used to think I saw him in dreams. Now you know it was ambition in disguise. He laughs softly. How do you survive this? You don't, you say. You simply outlast everyone who wants you dead. That afternoon, you receive a gift. A small box, wrapped in pale blue paper, sealed with no crest. Inside, a piece of embroidery, just a scrap, lace, delicate, beautiful, deadly, because woven into the threads, in ivory floss, are tiny letters in the old stitch cipher used by the Queen's personal agents. Only 3 people at court would even notice. You're one. You decipher it slowly, thread by thread. The boy is useful, but not essential. Prepare options. Do not get sentimental. You place the lace back in the box, tie it shut, and place it beside your bed like a decorative trinket. No one will ever know what it is, except the maid who helped you decode it, and she can't read. The message is clear. Dorian is being weighed, his life balanced against utility. You sit beside the fire and think. You could make him indispensable, tie him so deeply into your queen's foreign ambitions that to cut him out would unravel the entire design. Or you could use the knowledge of his illegitimacy as leverage, install someone else entirely, and rule through them. But then again, you like Dorian. He listens, he learns, and more importantly, he trusts you. That is rarer than silk and sharper than steel. So, you choose the third option. Make him so intertwined with your influence that removing him would be like cutting off your own arm. You begin the work that evening. You draft 3 new trade charters. You outline military reforms. You ghostwrite a letter from Dorian to the Queen, full of humility and forward-thinking admiration. You let him sign it. You do not correct his spelling. That makes it more believable. He sends it the next morning. You meet with the Dowager the day after. She offers you tea. You decline. You've been busy, she says. I serve Aberdeen. You serve your queen. I do both. You play a dangerous game. So does everyone who matters. She leans forward. Do you believe in bloodlines? I believe in results. That lands. She leans back. You were always too smart for a court this small. And yet here I am, you say, helping ensure its future. You're helping my grandson rule. No, you say. I'm helping him deserve it. There's a silence between you now that isn't hostile. It's heavy, respectful, like the space between two duelists who've realized neither is going to win cleanly. She lifts her cup. Then carry on. You bow. Deeper than necessary. For the message. Back in your chambers, a second note waits. Not ciphered. Not sealed. Just 4 words. Arlen sails in spring. You smile. Because spring is soon. And Arlen still believes Dorian is his pawn. That will be fun to correct. The sea brings Arlen like a rumor carried on salt wind, first a whisper in the council chamber, then a flagged ship on the horizon, and finally a sharp knock at the South Palace gate. He arrives dressed in mourning black, ostensibly for a cousin you're fairly sure never existed. The gown is tailored too well for grief. His boots gleam with the kind of polish you don't find in true sorrow. You watch from the upper window as he bows before the dowager. She does not embrace him, but her expression is soft enough to hint at old loyalties, dangerous ones. And Dorian? Dorian watches from the steps. No smile, just calculation. He knows this is the man who once brokered his existence. He doesn't yet know if that makes Arlen a father, a patron, or an executioner. Probably all 3. Arlen's first official words to the court are rehearsed, measured, unimpeachable. He speaks of mutual prosperity, of coastal unity, of friendship long deferred but never forgotten. Oh, which, in diplomatic language, translates to, I've been busy plotting, and now I'm ready to cash in. Later, in the great hall, you're introduced. He takes your hand and smiles, not warmly, not coldly, with recognition. I've heard of you, he says. I hope nothing too scandalous. Oh, only the useful parts. You don't blink. Then you've heard very little. Historians still debate whether Arlen's 18-day visit to Aberdeen was purely diplomatic or something far darker. No treaties were signed, no wars declared, but several nobles changed allegiances. 2 were found drowned, and 1 chapel mysteriously caught fire. There are no records, but the pattern is there, for those who know where to look. On his second night, Arlen invites you to dine. Privately. You agree. Of course. You arrive in a gown of storm gray silk, and a smile sharpened like a letter opener. The table is set for 2. No guards, no witnesses, just a carafe of Aberdeen wine and an unspoken promise of veiled threats. You've done well here, he says, slicing his venison too precisely. I enjoy a challenge. I hear the Queen trusts you. She trusts my results. And Dorian? You tilt your head. He listens. He learns. He's not hers. Is anyone? That makes him pause. Just a moment. But you file it away. I knew his mother, Arlen says after a sip. Not a woman built for courts, but sharp enough to see what they were. And the father? He doesn't answer, just refills your glass. Instead, he asks, do you believe in legacy? No, you say. I believe in timing. He studies you over the rim of his goblet. You do well in Ireland. I do well anywhere. And yet you stay. For now. That silence grows again, the one made not of absence, but of measured calculation. You rise first. A small victory. He doesn't stop you. As you leave me, he says, tell her I said hello. You pause at the door. She doesn't receive your messages anymore, you reply, and close it behind you. You write to the Queen that night, not with your usual ink, but with vinegar and soot, so the message fades after reading. You tuck it into the cover of a prayer book, hand it to a merchant set to sail at dawn, and watch it disappear with the tide. The message reads, he suspects, but he wants Dorian useful, not gone. He thinks he still has the leash. He's wrong. I'll let him keep thinking it. Permission to unmake him if needed? No signature, just the imprint of your ring, pressed into a smear of ash. The next day, Dorian finds you in the map room. He's flanked by 2 guards you didn't assign. That's new. That's intentional. He wants me to come to Arland, Dorian says without preamble. For what? To parade me. To prove his investment paid off. And will you go? I thought I'd ask you. That stops you. You study him. He's taller lately. Not physically, but in presence. He no longer shifts under your gaze. He meets it. Do you want to go? You ask. I want to prove I'm not his. Then let him think you are, just long enough to tie a knot. He nods. You take out a parchment, begin sketching. It's a ship route. You explain? One that passes through 3 neutral ports, each with a problem only you can solve. We'll stage an escort, build alliances en route. You want me to build my own crown? No, you say, meeting his eyes. Our crown. That night, Arland hosts a banquet, formal, indulgent, just shy of threatening. He makes a toast to new chapters. You lift your goblet. Dorian does the same. The Dowager Queen doesn't drink. You notice. You file it away. Later, Arland approaches you in the corridor, his voice low. You've made him sharp, he says. No, you reply. I've made him sovereign. Artain Wunti. And when you step into the moonlight and pull your cloak tighter, you think about legacy and timing and the beautiful shape of a knife drawn too slowly to be seen. Arland is watching. You're already writing his ending. 3 days later, Arland departs. Not in shame, not in haste. He leaves like a guest who believes the house will always be his to revisit. His ship cuts through Aberdeen's harbor with all the subtlety of a blade being sheathed. The sails bear no crest. The silence is his final word. You stand at the quay with Dorian, your gloved hands folded in front of you, your eyes fixed on the vanishing mast. He thinks he still owns me, Dorian says quietly. Let him. You murmur. Nothing is more dangerous than a man who underestimates what he built. You turn before the ship disappears from view. You never give an enemy the satisfaction of being watched until the end. Back in the palace, changes begin like a ripple under silk. The guards at the east gate are rotated, new faces, younger, loyal to you through favors their captains never noticed. The steward of the kitchens finds himself reassigned to a vineyard abroad. You never quite trusted how he handled the dowager's tea. And the dowager, she becomes quieter, not frail, just more reflective. She watches Dorian now like one studies a fire, warming, but only until it leaps the hearth. You dine with her often. She shares stories from her youth. Some you suspect are real. Some you know are not. Do you ever regret it? You ask her once. Which part? She replies without looking up. Letting him be king. Her spoon pauses in her soup, then continues. I regret waiting so long to teach him how. It's the closest she'll come to confession. Historians still argue whether the Dowager Queen stepped back willingly or was gently pushed. You know better. She let herself be edged aside because she thought she could still steer from the shadows. But shadows shorten at noon, and Dorian is rising. 1 week after Arlen's departure, Dorian summons the court, not to the throne room, to the war room. That alone makes people nervous. The room is circular, windowless, painted with battle maps no one has updated in 20 years. He stands at its center, a single candle on the table beside him. No thrones, no ceremony. He speaks plainly. Aberdeen is not a relic, he begins. It is not Arlan's outpost. It is not a buffer. It is a nation. You stand behind him, to the left, not beside, not in front, the precise place where influence breathes. He lays out a 3-part plan: military readiness, coastal trade reform, and internal, noble debt audits. The last one gets the most murmurs. If you owe Aberdeen, you will repay, he says. If you serve it, you will be rewarded. If you threaten it, he looks at no one. Everyone feels seen. You will be forgotten. No applause, just silence. Then one nod, then another, and the court, for the first time in years, leans forward instead of back. Afterward, he joins you in the old observatory. You wrote it, he says. I drafted it. He smiles faintly. Still think I'll fail? I think you're dangerous enough to survive. And if I become more than that? You meet his eyes. Then we'll see who flinches first. You both laugh, but there's steel beneath it. The next day, a letter arrives from Arland, sealed in wax the color of old bruises. No preamble. Dorian moves quickly. That's your doing. Watch him. Remember who built the scaffold before the crown was hung on it. No signature. Just a strand of gray hair pressed into the wax. A final warning? A token of old alliances? You don't answer. Instead, you hand the letter to Dorian. He reads it. He burns it. And says only, he thinks I'm his execution. You pour 2 cups of wine. Aren't you? The following week, you travel together, to the southern coast, to meet shipwrights, to be seen as a ruler not only in stone halls, but on open soil. The people respond well. He shakes hands. You take notes. And every village elder, every trade guild, every too-curious merchant walks away wondering who truly rules. Let them wonder. Let them write songs with no clear protagonist. Historians will puzzle over this period. Some will claim Dorian emerged as a genius strategist. Others will whisper of a shadow advisor, a velvet hand behind the curtain. A few may remember your name. The smarter ones will fear it. And if they ever ask who made him king, he'll say it was the people. You'll know it was you. Because legacy isn't born in blood. It's chosen. And shaped by those sharp enough to hold a quill with the same certainty they hold a dagger. You return to the palace at dusk, the sky bleeding peach and rust over Aberdeen's spires. The city below buzzes with your name, though few speak it aloud. You are, after all, only an advisor, only a guest, only the most dangerous woman in the room. The scent of beeswax and rosewood hits you the moment you re-enter your solar. A fire already lit, tea warming on a silver tray. Someone's been here. You glance at the tray. Nothing seems out of place, except the lemon. Lemon is not your preference. Lemon is a message. The Queen's. You sit, wait, and exactly 11 minutes later, a boy no older than 12 appears in the doorway, feigning awe at the tapestries. You let him linger. When he finally approaches, he trips, dramatically by your side, and drops a letter into your lap before scrambling away, muttering apologies. Inside, pressed between 2 sheets of perfume parchment, is the letter. You've danced long enough. Time to step off his shadow and into your own. Make the choice. Prepare the stage. We come soon. No signature, just a crescent drawn in violet ink, your queen's mark for an imminent shift. So, the queen is coming, or sending someone who will make the dust taste like silk and steel. Dorian is to be tested, not just by you now, but by the throne itself. And that means you will be tested too. You burn the letter, not because of what it says, but because of what it implies. Your usefulness is under review. You've seen this before. Too many times. A useful woman is cherished until she becomes indispensable. Then she becomes inconvenient. The palace sleeps early that night, but you do not. You walk the halls slowly, the stone cold beneath your slippered feet. Every torch seems to flicker in rhythm with your thoughts. You stop in the chapel, not to pray, to listen. And tonight, the chapel speaks, a whisper from the choir loft, old, rusted with fear. He's not ready. You glance up, say nothing. The shadow shifts and vanishes. But the message is clear. There are factions forming, people who doubt Dorian, people who know what you know and want something else, perhaps a different heir, perhaps no heir at all. Historians argue that coups are loud, dramatic, built in blood and banners. But you know the truth. The real coups start with a whisper in a chapel and a lemon wedge on a tea tray. You return to your chambers, find Dorian already waiting, hands behind his back, pacing. You're quiet, he says. You're being watched. By whom? By everyone who matters. He sits. What do I do? You pour 2 glasses of wine. Yours, dark, his, laced, not with poison, never poison, with courage. You sip first. He follows. You stop being a prince, you say. You start being inevitable. The next morning, Dorian convenes the court without notice. No feasts, no heralds, just cold chairs and serious faces. He speaks not of reforms, but of history. My blood may not be royal, he begins, but no crown has ever rested purely on lineage. It rests on will, on who can hold it without flinching. That lands hard. Someone coughs. Someone else nods. He continues, I will not pretend to be something I'm not, but I am what Aberdeen needs. And if anyone disagrees, they are free to say so. Silence. And then, from the back, we agree. It's the dowager. She stands slowly, hands shaking but voice clear. He is my choice, she says. He always was. I withheld the truth not to deceive, but to protect. He has protected us in return. You watch the nobles shift. The weight moves. The scales tip. Dorian nods once to her, then to you. It's done. Later, alone in the solar, he says, Did I pass? No, you reply. You change the question, and for that, the queen will come, not to test, but to choose. The next few days are filled with rehearsals. You don't call rehearsals. Dorian walks the halls with a parchment he never reads. He meets with soldiers he doesn't command. He speaks with the clergy, with merchants, with the families who still mourn lost brothers from past wars. He's not a king yet, but he's something harder to fight, believable. You prepare the palace for arrival. You redecorate subtly. More Aberdeen blues, fewer tokens of the capital. The queen must feel welcome, but not omnipotent. You review the staff, reroute the kitchens, replace the musicians, and finally, you sit at your writing desk and draw up 2 speeches. One names Dorian as confirmed heir under Aberdeen sovereignty. The other names no one. Just a memory. You will burn one. Soon. The queen arrives at dusk. As always, her timing a weapon in itself. Not quite day, not quite night. She steps from her carriage as if the cobblestones were woven specifically for her, the folds of her gown absorbing the light, her veil sheer enough to suggest mercy, but dark enough to promise something else entirely. You are the first to greet her, by design. Your Majesty, you say, curtsying low. She doesn't lift you. That's not how she operates. She lets you rise on your own, measuring how long you remain bowed. You give her 6 seconds, humble, but not submissive. She says nothing at first, just studies you like one might examine an aging chessboard. Then, you've been busy. Your will, as always. Let's hope so. Behind her, the procession flows like silk. Advisors, guards, 2 scribes who never speak, and a young girl whose only job is to carry a single sealed box. You've never seen her before. That's important. Because when the queen travels with a sealed box and a child, it means she's brought options. One is a crown, the other is a knife. Dorian meets her on the marble stairs. He bows, deeper than you. His words are careful. Your Majesty, welcome to Aberdeen. Is it still Aberdeen? She replies. He doesn't flinch. For now. She smiles, just slightly. We'll see. That evening, a banquet is held, not in celebration, but in scrutiny. Every course is a performance. The wine is watched. The cutlery counted. No one eats without wondering what each bite means. You are seated to the queen's left, Dorian to her right. A statement. A test. The queen speaks little during the meal, but her silences are loud. At one point, she turns to you, dabbing her lips with a cloth so white it might as well be a flag. You've trained him. I've guided him. And if he fails, then I fail. She nods, not approving, just recording. After dessert, she requests a private walk with Dorian. The gardens are lit with lanterns. You follow at a discreet distance, your footsteps silent. They walk slowly, their shadows long across the frost-touched hedges. I've read your letters, she tells him. Then you know what I intend. I know what you claim. I've shown restraint. You've shown skill. Isn't that what a king needs? No, she says. A king needs certainty. They stop beneath the old fig tree. And what are you certain of, Dorian? He turns to her. That Aberdeen needs me more than it fears me. She considers this, then gestures toward you. And her? He doesn't hesitate. She's the reason I'm not dead in a ditch. The queen laughs, not kindly, but honestly. Good answer. She returns to the palace without another word. Dorian lingers. You join him beneath the lantern light. How did I do? He asks. You spoke like a king. But did I convince her? She doesn't need to be convinced. You say, she needs to be outmaneuvered. That night, you sit in your chamber and stare at the 2 speeches again. One names him, one erases him. You run your fingers over the parchment. The ink is dry, but the consequences are wet with blood you haven't yet shed. Then there's a knock. Not the queen, not Dorian, the girl, the one who carries the box. She says nothing, just enters, places the box on your desk, and steps back. You nod. She leaves. You study the box. No lock, no seal. Inside, 2 items, a small coronet, scaled for travel, and a dagger. You expected both, but not the 3rd item. A single letter, unmarked. You unfold it. The queen's hand, as always, is immaculate. Your loyalty is noted. Your success, observed. The choice is yours now. But know this. If you crown him, He must be fully yours. No strings to Arland, no shadows from the Dowager, no second loyalties. Or I will return, and I will do what you would not. That's the moment it becomes real. Not a game, not a strategy, a decision. You sit for a long time. You think of Dorian, ambitious, uncertain, sharp, still becoming. You think of the Dowager, tired, proud, resigned. You think of yourself, and then you write. You burn the speech that names no one. You keep the crown. You place it in the sunlight to catch the first dawn, because tomorrow you will give him the throne, and after that, you will make sure he keeps it, or die undoing everyone who stands in the way. Dawn does not break, it creeps. The light bleeds slowly across the palace floor, golden and cold, spilling through stained glass like confession. You are already dressed when it arrives. No velvet, no jewels. Simplicity is the most powerful costume now. You wear gray, storm gray silk, the same as the night you dined with Arland, the color of clouds that don't ask permission to arrive. Let the court see and wonder, is she mourning or warning? The coronation will not be public, not yet. The queen has insisted on a private rite, sealed chamber, select witnesses, no fanfare. She claims it is to preserve dignity. You know better. It's to preserve control. Only 20 people will be in the room, and every one of them holds a secret sharp enough to slice through a bloodline. Dorian waits outside the chapel in ceremonial armor, polished to a dull gleam. No crown yet. Just the weight of expectation across his shoulders, like a mantle sewn from whispers. He turns to you as you approach. I didn't sleep, he admits. Good, you say. Only fools sleep before they become legends. He smiles faintly. If I do this, there's no going back. There never was. Inside the chapel, the queen stands at the altar, not in regal gold, but in mourning black again, as though she is burying something no one else dares name. Maybe a kingdom, maybe a version of herself. She holds the coronet, small, simple, no blood gems, no velvet cushion, just silver, twisted in the shape of bay leaves, Aberdeen's crest, stripped of its pomp. You take your place. You do not kneel. Dorian steps forward. The queen says nothing at first, just watches. Then, at last, do you swear loyalty to Aberdeen? I do. And to your people? I do. And to me? A pause. Then, I will swear loyalty to the queen, and to the crown she keeps safe. That, right there, is the moment. Not defiance, redirection. You hold your breath. The queen narrows her eyes. Then slowly, slowly, she nods. She places the coronet on his head. It glints once, only once. And in that moment, Aberdeen has a king. No trumpets, no declarations. Just a single candle flickering beside a crown that has waited too long. Historians would later argue about what Dorian said. Some versions omit his pause. Others reword it entirely. A few claim he swore to you, not to her. They're all wrong. He swore to no one. That's what made him king. After the ceremony, the queen calls you aside. The chapel emptying like lungs deflating after a held breath. She says nothing for a long time, just stands before the altar, her veil casting shadows across her cheeks like scars. Finally, he surprised me. He was supposed to. I meant you. You incline your head. You gave me a task. I fulfilled it. She looks toward the door, where Dorian lingers in conversation with a captain whose loyalty you personally purchased with a marriage license and a farm. He thinks he's ready, she murmurs. He is. Then let's hope he's also grateful. He is. She turns to you now, fully. If he isn't, I'll fix it. The queen exhales. You always do. And then she leaves. No farewell, no blessing, just silence and the soft tread of power exiting the room. You remain alone. You light a candle, not for prayer, for memory, because you've done what no woman has done in 3 generations of Aberdeen's rule. You've built a monarch from nothing but contradiction. And now, the kingdom is yours to shape. You return to your chambers to find a letter waiting, sealed in violet wax, pressed with no crest, just a fingerprint. Inside, a ship has been seen leaving Arlen's western port. No flag. It will not dock here without fire. You fold the paper. You place it in the fire, because your eyes are not on the sea today. They are on the throne, and the boy who now warms it. Later, Dorian enters your solar without knocking. He does not ask permission anymore. Is it real now? He asks. You're wearing it. That doesn't answer the question. It never will, you say, because the crown is only real if people believe you deserve to keep it. He sits across from you, his hand brushing the coronet as if it might vanish. They'll come for me. They'll come for all of us. He nods. And you'll stay? Until the last door is closed. And after that, I'll open a new one. You toast that evening with a goblet of honeyed wine. No speeches, no declarations, just the knowledge that you've crossed a threshold no map dares mark. The queen will stay one more night, then leave, and when she does, she'll leave behind the only thing she ever feared more than rebellion. A monarch she didn't control, and the woman who taught him how to rule without needing her. The queen departs at dawn, slipping from the palace like a departing storm, quiet, but leaving everything damp and unsettled. She doesn't summon Dorian, doesn't summon you. She simply goes. No farewell, no final instruction, no threat. That's the threat. From the high window in the east tower, you watch her carriage vanish into fog. Dorian joins you, still in his sleep shirt, hair tousled, crown absent. He looks more like a boy than a monarch, but there's steel in his spine now. You taught him that. She didn't say goodbye, he mutters. She never does. He leans on the window frame. She'll send something, though, sooner or later. A letter, an envoy, a war. He exhales. Which do you think? You turn to him. All of them. And then you smile, because this is the part no one prepares you for. Not the crowning, not the victory, but the aftermath. The long silence where you wait to see which enemy stirs first. Over the next few weeks, you make yourself very busy. You audit the treasury, twice. You install new magistrates in towns whose loyalties were always wobbly. You rewrite 2 trade contracts and reject 4 marriage proposals for Dorian, 3 of which were polite, and 1 of which was a veiled bribe wrapped in pearls. The court settles, but not like still water, more like ice, hard, gleaming, and ready to crack under the wrong weight. Historians often describe peaceful transitions of power as boring. They fail to notice the daggers behind the curtains, the lords too agreeable, the silence that tastes of ash. You notice everything, which is why, when a scroll arrives tied with yellow silk, Arlen's colors, you do not open it immediately. You wait. You take it to Dorian, who's reviewing a ledger in the solar like he's been doing it for years. He sets the quill down. Read it. You break the seal. The script is elegant and fluid. Arlen's signature style, so graceful it hides the blade. To King Dorian of Aberdeen, it is with joy that we recognize your coronation and pledge our support to your future. We look forward to strengthening ties and welcome your voice in the upcoming coastal summit in Thalruth. Your presence would bring legitimacy and peace in unity. Lord Arland. You hand it to Dorian. He reads it twice. He wants me under his roof, he says, so I can either bend or die. You nod. Or pretend to bend and leave him guessing. He taps the parchment. I could go. You raise an eyebrow. You could, but that means letting him control the terms. I could send someone in my place. You could send me? That catches him. He considers. Would you? Of course. Because you trust me to keep ruling. Because I made you to. He smiles. That same smile you first saw at the edge of Aberdeen's map room. The one that says, I trust you more than I should. And I know it. You begin planning that night. The journey to Thalruth is not long, but treacherous in other ways. Arlen's court is famously polite and full of poison, verbal, literal, emotional. You prepare a wardrobe of sober colors, double-check your travel companions, and sew 3 letters into your hem. 1 for Dorian, 1 for the Queen, and 1 for a spy in the Arlen court who doesn't know you know they're yours. Dorian watches you pack. You won't die, right? Not by accident. If you're caught, they won't know what to do with me. He watches as you fold your gloves into a cedar box. You were never supposed to stay this long, he says. Neither were you. He nods. Send the crown with me, you say, but not on me. To show I'm still king? To remind them you can afford to let it travel. 2 days later, you arrive in Thalruth. It's colder. The stones underfoot feel thinner, like something rotting beneath. The people bow too low. The air smells faintly of burnt parchment. Arlen greets you with open arms. Lady, he says, you grace us. You offer your hand, not your smile. He kisses your fingers and holds your wrist half a heartbeat too long. I see Aberdeen still sends its sharpest blade in silk. I wore linen today, you reply. He laughs, even sharper. Then, the games begin that night, a feast with too many courses, a harpist playing songs of old rebellions, an ambassador who accidentally refers to you as Queen Regent. You smile through it all. You collect names, glances, seating arrangements. You notice which wine is served late, which server avoids your eyes, which maid has Arlen's family ring looped around her braid. You sleep with a dagger beneath your pillow and the window cracked just enough to hear footsteps if they come. You know they will, because Arlen wants something, and soon, very soon, you'll know what, and you will give him something else entirely. You don't wait long. The knock comes at midnight, not a servant's timid tap, but a deliberate rhythm, the kind that demands to be answered. You rise, smooth your sleeves, and unlock the door. Arland, unescorted, uninvited, unbothered. He leans in the doorway like he owns the timber, his expression soft, his eyes like weather, hard to predict, impossible to trust. You sleep lightly, he says. You knock loudly. Force of habit. He smiles. May I? No. He enters anyway. Historians often sanitize moments like this. They imagine them as tense but formal negotiations, all parchment and diplomacy. But in truth, this kind of meeting is older than ink. It's scent and stance, breath and silence. 2 predators circling the same prize under moonlight. He stands by your writing desk, fingers grazing a paperweight shaped like a lion. "You've built quite the kingdom," he says. "I've maintained one. Don't undersell yourself. You made Dorian. I shaped him. Same thing. Oh, you move closer, slow and steady. What do you want, Arland?" He picks up the lion, turns it once in his hand. "I want a future where we don't have to guess what side we're on." "And how do you imagine that future?" "You advise me, not him. There it is." He doesn't flinch when he says it. He just places the lion down, gently, like something too valuable to break unless he chooses to. You let the silence stretch. Then, "That's treason." "No," he replies. "That's vision. You already had a puppet once. Why not make another?" He chuckles. "Because you taught the last one how to bite." He steps closer now. "Come back to Arland," he says. "I'll give you the real reins. Not court gossip. Not whispered influence. Titles. Troops. Your own house. Your own banner. You don't understand me at all," you say. "I understand power. I understand you want more. I want stability." He leans in. "No, you don't. You want control." You look at him, and for the first time, you see it. Not confidence, not arrogance, but desperation. Not for you, not even for your loyalty, for relevance. He knows the tides are changing. He just doesn't know where to anchor. You tilt your head. "What do I get if I say yes?" He smiles. "Anything. And if I say no? Then I find someone else to shape the story." You step past him, open the window. The wind is sharp with sea salt and secrets. "You're not a king, our land. You're a setting. And you're a story no one will believe happened without me." You turn to him. "Then write your version, but make it fiction. Because if you come for Aberdeen again, I will make your next knock your last." He studies you for a long time. Then, to your surprise, he bows. Perfect posture, no sarcasm, and leaves. No slam doors, no curses, just absence. The next morning, a box appears at your chamber door. Inside, a crown, not Aberdeen's, Arlen's, smaller, thinner, made of jet and iron, meant for a ceremonial consort, a symbol, not of rule, but of conquest. Beneath it, a note, for when you remember who gave you your teeth. You don't burn it. You send it to Dorian, with no explanation. He'll understand. Because kings must learn who their enemies pretend to be before they face those who announce themselves in armor. You attend the summit meetings that week with calculated calm. You sip watered wine and offer half-truths. You negotiate a grain route that will bankrupt a border merchant known to bribe Arlen's treasurers. And you smile so often and so well that 3 nobles from 3 different courts propose alliances you'll pretend to consider. When the summit ends, you leave Thalruth at dawn, wrapped in gray again. You do not look back. Back in Aberdeen, the court welcomes you like a hearth welcomes flame. Dorian meets you privately. Did he try to buy you? Of course. And? He offered me a house and a banner. Oh, Dorian's smile is brittle. What did you say? I already built one. You toss the box at his feet. The iron crown spills out. He doesn't pick it up. Just says, he's scared. You nod. He should be. You don't sleep that night. Instead, you write a letter. Not to the Queen. Not to Arland. To no one. But it begins with the words, "If I should fall," and ends with, "Make sure the next one is sharper." You seal it. You hide it. Because this is the part of power no one teaches, how to plan for your absence, and how to ensure the world burns only when you say so. You wake to thunder, not from the sky, there's no storm, but from the court below, the rhythmic pounding of boots and breathless urgency. Messages arrive in waves, red wax, blue wax, no wax, each one tighter, terser than the last. The Queen is assembling an army, not for Aberdeen, yet, but for a border skirmish dressed in noble etiquette. One of her vassals has overreached. Ireland has responded. And now a village you've never heard of is on fire. It always begins this way. You descend the marble stair in full command, gray gloves, high collar, a pace that suggests you've known this moment was coming since before Dorian was born. You find him in the council chamber, pacing between a table strewn with scrolls and a map no one has updated since your last intervention. The room smells of ink, wax, and unease. He looks up. She's moving, he says. She sent an envoy. No ultimatum. Just an update. She's reminding us, you reply. Of what? You stop beside the map, point to a dot. Of how fast she can erase this place. Dorian falls into the chair at the head of the table. I won't bend. You can't afford to. She thinks I'm still a boy. She hopes you are. That lands. He straightens. I want to send a message, not a war. So do it. He looks to you. You already have it in your pocket. You unfold the parchment you wrote 2 nights ago, just in case. A letter to the Queen, written in the voice of a loyal subject with just enough frost in the phrasing to be memorable. You slide it across the table. This will buy us time. He reads it, then looks up. You've already sealed it. Of course I have. He nods, then smiles, crooked, sharp. You really never stop. No, you say, and neither can you. Historians will later call this the frost reprieve, a brief pause in the slow spiral between Aberdeen and the capital. They'll attribute it to diplomatic prudence, to grain shortages, even to weather patterns. They'll never know it came from a woman with 3 versions of the same letter in her desk, and the sense to use the coldest one. You dispatch the message via the falconer, your falconer, not the palace's. His birds don't return unless they're meant to. That's the point. Then, you begin the next phase. You summon allies, one by one, not the loudest ones, not the lords who toast Dorian too often, or the ladies who write poems about his noble brow. No, you gather the quiet pillars, the merchants who've profited since your reforms, the generals whose sons now serve in new outposts, the widows of former traitors who found themselves gently forgiven and richly compensated. You remind them of what Dorian has done. You remind them of what you have done. And you remind them, very calmly, of what will happen if that crown is removed. Meanwhile, the Queen writes back. Her letter is long, too long. You read it in silence. Then again, aloud. Dorian sits across from you. Well, you hand it to him. She's not declaring war, but she's waiting for us to slip. He looks at the end of the letter. I trust you to maintain order. That's generous. No, you say. That's a dare. That night, you host a supper. Small, quiet, no fanfare. Just enough of the right people at one table to make the rest of the court nervous. You seat Dorian beside you. You pour his wine. You cut his meat for him, not because he needs help, but because you want them to see that he lets you. Let them whisper. Let them wonder who truly rules. After dessert, The Dowager Queen appears, unexpected, uninvited, dressed in black lace that hasn't seen candlelight in a year. She walks with a cane now, not for balance, for effect. She stops behind your chair. You've made him strong, she says. Not warm, not bitter. Just true. He made himself... No. She taps the cane once on the stone floor. You did. Don't insult us both by pretending otherwise. You look up. Then what do you want? To warn you? Of what? She leans close. When you build a king, make sure he doesn't learn how to bury his architect. And then she leaves. No applause, no response, just absence. Again, you sit still. Dorian doesn't speak. You both know what she means. Power isn't inherited. It's assumed. It's absorbed. And sometimes it turns on its source. Later, back in your chambers, you find a second letter waiting on your pillow, unmarked. Inside, you have until the harvest. Then I come myself. No signature. But the ink smells of violets and ash. The Queen. You hold the note in candlelight and smile. Let her come. The harvest will be ready, and so will you. The days shorten. The court thickens. Harvest arrives not with celebration, but with preparation. Fields yield grain, and the palace yields rumors of war, of weddings, of whispers gone too far. The Queen's letter, still unspoken of, lingers over every banquet, like perfume no one can name, but everyone smells. You stand in the great hall as carts of tribute are rolled in, barrels of salted fish, wheels of cheese, crates of dried figs packed like promises. You nod, smile, accept. You offer nothing in return. Not yet. In the upper courtyard, Dorian practices speeches. Not because he needs to. He's fluent now in public voice, but because the act of practicing reminds people that he's still working, still becoming. The coronet shines brighter on his brow these days, not because it's polished more, but because no one dares question whether he should wear it. You've done that, and now you must do more. Historians often trace the rise of monarchs through battles and borders, never noticing that true rule is cemented in quieter victories, like this. One morning, before dawn, you walk the south wing alone. The servants nod and look away. They know your hours. They know your silence. You visit the chapel, not to pray, never to pray. You light a candle anyway, not for the gods, for memory. Then, as light breaks over the stained glass saints, you step into the solar where Dorian waits. He holds a letter. It's her handwriting, he says. You nod. Open it. He does. You watch his face. Then, slowly, he passes it to you. I arrive by equinox. I expect a throne room and silence. There will be no blood, unless you force it. Decide how history remembers you, my child, or I will. Q. No title, no warmth, just the final move. She wants a surrender, he says. She wants a theater. He looks at you. Then we give her one? You smile. No. We give her something better. You spend the next 7 days choreographing not a coronation, not a tribute, but a truth, carefully arranged. On the 8th day, the Queen arrives. This time, the city watches. She rides in an open carriage, dressed not in mourning black, but in imperial white. No veils. Her hair is braided high, a crownless queen by choice. She does not smile, not once. The palace gates open. Inside, everything is as she commanded. The throne room lit with winter light. No music, no flowers, no lies. She steps forward, and there is Dorian, waiting, not on the throne, beside it. You stand to his left. She halts. You look taller, she says. I've been standing on a kingdom, he replies. You resist the urge to grin. Barely. The queen surveys the room. Then, softly, Are you ready? No, Dorian says. But I am ruling anyway. Silence. She lifts her chin. And her? She means you? Of course. Dorian turns. She built this court. She watches him carefully. Do you trust her? With my throne? No, you say calmly. With his life? The queen breathes in once, shallow, stillness like silk stretched too tightly, and then she nods. No ceremony, no decree, just that, and it is done. Later, she dines in private, alone. She will leave at dawn. No farewells. She never gives those, but she stays the night, and that is a victory. In the days that follow, power settles like dust in old stone. Not shaken yet. You sit in your chambers, watching the candle burn low. Dorian rules. Arland retreats. The queen withdraws. And you? You write one last letter. It is finished. For now. The crown remains on the boy I made king, and the knife remains in my hand. Let them all remember who shaped the silence. You seal it. You place it in the hollow behind the mirror, because someday someone will find it and wonder how peace was made not with armies, but with a woman who never raised her voice. And now you breathe. The palace sleeps. The candle burns lower. Your slippers rest beside the chair, and your gown drapes like dusk across your knees. The air hums with a rare stillness, the kind that only arrives once everyone else believes the battle is done. You stretch your fingers, slowly. No fan, no dagger, just the warmth of rest earned through cleverness. The corridors no longer echo with tension, just quiet steps, the kind that belong to those who serve peace instead of war. You hear a page turning in the hallway, and the distant hush of late prayers. No one knocks. No one dares. You tilt your head against the back of the chair, and for the first time in a long time, your mind does not race. You built a king. You silenced a queen. You outlived a plot that never knew it was outmatched. And now, the moonlight spills across the stone floor like a sigh. Everything you did was in whispers, but the silence you left behind, it speaks volumes. So close your eyes now. Let the shadows fall soft. Let the world be quiet for a while. You've earned your rest, because in the end, it was not the crown or the kingdom or the sword. It was the woman who watched, who waited, and who never once missed her mark. Good night. Sweet dreams. End of script. Sweet dreams.